Okay, today we're going to be just reviewing adding and subtracting with decimal numbers, very similar to what we've been doing over the last couple of days with column methods. So let's get straight into this. The key here is to make sure that you line up your columns correctly. So at the moment, I've got ones and I've got tenths. Ones and I've got tenths. So let me put that in. I'm also going to put in my decimal place because that's the other thing people tend to forget is their decimal point. So I've got 5.6, add 4.8. A really good habit to get into is to make sure your decimal points are lined up. That's the best way to check that your digits are in the right positions. And when you come on in year 5 to look at some more complex decimal calculations, that will really help you if you're in that habit. 6 add 8 is 14. I'm going to put in my decimal point straight away. 6 add 8, as we said, is 14. So I'm going to regroup. I go across the decimal point into the ones column because 10 tenths is the same as 1, 1. 5 and 4 is 9. Add the 1 gives me 10. So 10.4 is my answer. Let's look at this one. Now again, look here, because I've got a different number of digits, only 2 digits here. If I line up my decimal point first, then I can put the 6 on this side in the ones column and the 7 in the tenths column, and I'm happy that I've lined up my digits correctly. Put in my decimal point in the sum. 4 and 7 is 11, regroup. 3 and 6 is 9, add that 1 gives me 10, so I need to regroup again. You can see the 10 here, 1 and 1, so I get 20.1. Your turn, pause the video, unpause when you're finished, but really think carefully about your lining up. Okay, here we go. 7.3, line up the decimal point, 4.8. Put in the decimal point straight away. 3 and 8 is 11, regroup. 7 and 4 is also 11, add the 1, gives me 12. Remember, I'm not regrouping at the end, I'm just putting it straight into that tens column. Similar thing here, checking I'm lining up my decimal point first, so the 6 goes in the ones column, and the 7 goes in the tenths column. Put in my decimal point. 5 and 7 is 12. Regroup. 1 and 6 is 7, add the 1 is 8, and then a 7 tenths just by itself, so 78.2. Subtraction, very similar. Again, 16.7, I'm going to put in my decimal point first. 5 goes in the ones column, 6 goes in the tenths column. Put in my decimal point in the difference. 7 subtract 6 is 1, 6 subtract 5 is 1, and 1 subtract nothing is 1, so I get 11.1. What about here? Again, decimal point in, line up my tens, my ones, my tenths. Now this time I'm going to have to do some regrouping. So I can't do 1 tenth subtract 8 tenths. Can't cross out 8 tenths. So I'm going to have to turn 1 10, take 1 1, sorry, and turn it into 10 tenths. 11 subtract 8 is 3. Don't forget my decimal point. 1 subtract 3 I can't do, so I'm going to take 1 10, so I've got 5 tens now, turn it into 10 ones. 11 subtract 3 again is 8, and then 5 tens subtract 1 10 is 4 tens, so I get 48.3. Your turn, pause the video, come back when you're done. Okay, here we go, 21.6, subtract, put in my decimal point, 7.2. Put in my decimal point. 6 subtract 2 is 4. 1 subtract 7 I can't do, so I'm going to regroup. 11 subtract 7 is 4. 1 subtract nothing is 14. And then this example here. Right, I've got 5 tenths. And I'm trying to get rid of 7, so I need some more tenths. So I'm going to go to the 1. So I'll take 1, 1. Regroup it. I've now got 15 tenths. 15 subtract 7 is 8. Put in my decimal point. 3 subtract 5 I can't do, so I need to regroup. 13 subtract 5 is 8. 2 subtract 2 is 0. So my answer, the difference between these two numbers, is actually 8.8. Remember, I don't need that 0 at the end. So have a go now at the independent task. Really make sure that the key thing with decimals is to make sure you line up the decimal points, check that you've got the decimal point in your answer, and then just think with subtraction, think very carefully about whether or not you need to do any regrouping.